El Segundo, we're going to call this meeting to order. Madam Clerk, would you please take roll call?
Absolutely. Councilmember Baldino,
Here.
Councilmember Giroux, who is absent this evening, Councilmember Perstuck. Here. Mayor Pro Tem Pimentel.
Here.
Mayor Boyles.
Here.
Alrighty.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. All right, we're going to have the invocation. That's going to be led by Pastor Jimmy Cheney of the Church of Beach Cities right here on Main Street. And then we're going to have the Pledge of Allegiance led by Mayor Pro Tem Pimentel. So if you could all please rise.
It's great to see so many people here today. How exciting. Let's pray. Lord, we ask you for wisdom to guide all the discussions and decisions today. Grant clarity of thought and discernment. Give us a spirit of unity so that everyone may work together in harmony, always seeking what's best. May we be inspired by your love and your compassion for us, and may we share that compassion for others. Help us all to be stewards of our city, protecting its resources, nurturing its growth, promoting peace and justice for all. Grant everyone here the strength to carry out duties with integrity and humility. We pray for our community that it will flourish and thrive, that we will all be instruments of your peace, grace, and goodness in all that we do. It's in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Jimmy. It's good seeing you. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Pimentel. All right, got a couple special presentations this night. Tonight, I should say. First one is the Spark of Love proclamation that's going to be read by Councilmember Perstuck.
Yeah, thank you, Drew. So proclamation from the City of El Segundo, whereas in an effort to provide for children who otherwise may not experience the joy of the holiday season, the City of El Segundo Fire Department, along with other Southland fire agencies, have participated in the Spark of Love program for the past 30 years and has collected toys and food items donated during the holidays. And whereas the ever upward spiraling cost of living burdens disadvantage and displaced families who may not be able to give gifts during the holiday season without help from the Spark of Love program. And whereas the true holiday spirit is reflected in unselfish giving, and our thoughts and hearts go out to those less fortunate than otherwise. And whereas in the past, with the help of civic-minded citizens who live and work in our community, hundreds of toys plus food items have been collected and distributed to children and families in El Segundo and other South Bay areas. Now, therefore, the mayor and the members of the City Council of the City of El Segundo, California, do hereby proclaim November 11, 2024 through December 19, 2024 as the Spark of Love Toy Drive. The community is encouraged to support this holiday program by contributing toys and non-perishable food items to the El Segundo Fire Department, Fire Station 1, at 314 Main Street during the period of November 11th through December 19th. And accepting this proclamation is our own Chief Avery. Is this issue? Oh, it's Chief Avery.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, council members. It's such an honor to be a host for the Spark of Love. I've been part of the Spark of Love for many years, and it's just been such a benefit to the entire community, many communities across Southern California, as you know. So thank you very much.
All right. Do you want to take a picture?
Hold on a second now. Sorry. How you doing? Good, sir. How are you? Could we get a row above?
right. I can't see the chief. You're too big. All right, one more. All right. Oops, sorry about that. Okay, do I see anybody? Yes, I do. All right, here we go. Couple of photos here. Let me go a little above here. All right. And one more for fun. Thank you so much.
All right, now we have another very exciting special presentation, Mrs. Mancini.
Yes, Honorable Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council, tonight the El Segundo Youth Drama is here to present, thank you, to present a piece from their upcoming James and the Giant Peace Show.
All right, that was amazing. Anything to follow up on that? That was just, ladies, well done. Let's see. Do we have? Let's talk about the show. Is there a show upcoming?
Yes,
Yeah, I'd love to hear. That was an incredible like teaser. I'm like left. Okay, when's the show coming? Yeah.
Hello. The show is James and the Giant Peach, and it's going to be Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday afternoon. Tickets are on sale at the clubhouse or online. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That was amazing. Great treat. Thank you so much. All right, now we're on to public communications. If you haven't already done so, please turn in your public communications card if you would like to speak. Madam Clerk, how many cards do we have this evening?
14.
14. All right, we're going to do 2 minutes each. So if you could please do your best to be concise. If you've written longer than that, just cut it down to the salient points, and feel free to say ditto to the person if you want to just echo something somebody already said. So Madam Clerk, please.
All right. Jane Bennett.
Hi everyone, can you hear me? Didn't expect to be first, okay. So I don't live in El Segundo, but I work here at Biz House. Some of you may have received emails from me. I work at Grades of Green at Biz House, and I'm here to speak about the parking permit program. I just want to start off by saying I don't disagree with parking permits for residents. I think that's a good thing. I fully support that. The issue is the 2-hour parking as well. Because there are so many of us who work at Biz House, Jim and Jack's, like all the other businesses in the area, and there's simply not enough parking for all of us if we want to keep our cars in one spot all day. The 2-hour parking just doesn't work for those of us who have meetings. You know, sometimes my coworkers and I have off-site visits, and then we have to figure out, okay, who's driving? We got to make sure everybody's like in, you know, a spot where they won't get towed while we're all gone at the site visit. And it's really stressful. Like, even sometimes if I get to work at like 8:45, 8:50, there are no spots, and I have to park really far away. I don't want to park in the neighborhood, like I don't want to park in front of everybody's houses. And I think there just has to be a balance. Ideally, I know that the issue is like hotel guests, people who want to go to LAX and park for free, homeless people who have nowhere else to park. And I listened to the recording of the meeting from, I think, February, that those are the main concerns. So I want to propose no overnight parking instead of 2-hour restrictions, or even just 4-hour restrictions, because moving my car like 3 times throughout the day is excessive and it just doesn't work. For many of us who have meetings, like back-to-back meetings for 3 hours, like then what do I do? So even just 4 hours, like move my car at lunch, that would work. I just urge you to reconsider the 2-hour parking restrictions for the employees in the area who need access to the street parking. Because there also just isn't, like the lot at Biz House just isn't big enough for all of us, and it costs $120 to park in, which is not realistic for all of us. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bennett.
Jenna Pitula.
Hi, everyone. I'm here. My daughters both are in El Segundo Youth Drama, and they just adore the program. I have a daughter that is a freshman and then a daughter who's in 4th grade. And I volunteer at a lot of the shows, and I'm backstage. And my concern is that I've heard that Drama has been asked to relocate the storage from the downstairs storage room to the upstairs sunroom, or possibly an outside storage room. I'm concerned that the costumes could get damaged just being backstage and seeing all the kids running through. There's just not a lot of room in that sunroom because there's already things stored in there. And so, I don't know, that's just a concern of mine. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you showing up.
Coco.
Good evening, council members. My name is Coco. I'm 16 years old, a high school student, and a proud member of El Segundo Youth Drama, which I've been a part of since I was 5 years old. I have performed in 22 shows with ESYD. These teach me valuable skills and building a strong sense of community. I'm also here on behalf of my mother, Kelly Schofield, who has served on the Drama Boosters board for the last 11 years, but she couldn't be here tonight. We are here tonight to address the notice to vacate the storage closet in the George E. Gordon Clubhouse, which is a vital space that has supported our program for 36 years. Its removal is jeopardizing our current production, James and the Giant Peach, and the long-term success of ESYD. The year-round importance of the closet. This closet is used year-round to store costumes, props, and sets, enabling the program to stretch its $10,000 annual budget across 5 productions. With 30% of our materials coming from the closet, losing this resource forces us to spend more money and time sourcing replacements, which is unsustainable. Disruptions to the program. Over the summer, during Willy Wonka, our production team received an abrupt notice to vacate the closet, disrupting rehearsals and affecting over 40 cast members and volunteers. Now, during James and the Giant Peach Tech Week, our team continues to face pressure to vacate. This critical time requires focus on finalizing sets, props, and costumes, and the added stress is negatively impacting everyone involved. The challenges with proposed alternatives. There has been a lack of communication. The communication via email has been sporadic and not inclusive of the El Segundo Booster Board. Due to this, we only had our first meeting to discuss this in October. All these emails and responses can be provided to ensure that you hear the truth. At the completion of that meeting, it was agreed that the boosters would make every effort to find viable solutions for using the sunroom as storage and come up with a plan. In addition, the production team agreed to use every free day of their personal schedules to go in and clean out the drama storage closet for free. This has happened.
Time's up.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Scoville. Well done. Thank you.
Robin Smith.
Hi. Good evening. Good evening, Good evening, City Council. Thank you for giving us a few minutes to address an issue that needs to be give a little attention. Parks and Recs and El Segundo Youth Drama having a bit of a storage issue, as we've been talking about. The program's been around for 40 years and has served a large population in a town that's very sports focused. A lot of kids can get lost, and El Segundo Youth Drama has given a wonderful home to many of these kids where they can find community. The storage solution that's been offered by Parks and Rec will actually cause an issue with the way the program is ran. Currently, we are able to produce amazing theater productions, as you saw, on a very small budget due to all the special items kept in this facility. These items are accessed a minimum of 3 days a week, year-round, every week, like most weeks of the year. The storage area that was offered would actually be better served to keep the Parks and Recs events and such, because it's on the other side of the park, and it's a big area on the other side of the park. If we were to have to move to this facility, we'd actually need more adults, because the adults in charge would have to leave the children to go find the items that they're looking for each show. The clubhouse was built many years ago for the children of our community, and turning a good portion of this into a storage facility just doesn't make sense. We are all here because we love the kids, all of us, and for the last 22 years, I've loved the city, and the city has always put children on the top of the priorities. There's got to be a better way, except the ways that we've been offered. It would injure the program. It also sends a really negative message to the kids, and I don't really like that, because this is their home. We are here asking if you could help us find a better solution so we can continue to make this wonderful program. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Jim DeCordova.
Hello, I'm Jim DeCordova. I live at 421 Washington Street, Zone 3, and I just wanted to come tonight and thank the council for instituting the permit parking over there, and hope that you will either make it permanent or extend it. It's working great. People can come and go that live there, and we can park there. It's big help when you get to be up in the years. And thanks again.
Thank you.
Pat Curry.
Hello, Mayor, Council. My name's Pat Curry. I live at 412 Washington, and I wanted to thank you all for implementing the pilot program, Parking Zone 3. It's made a tremendous difference in our neighborhood. Feels like when we moved in before, companies like Biz House moved in, where we actually were able to park on our street. We can allowed to have guests over. So I wanted to thank you all very much. I think it's working great.
Thank you.
Ken Wogelman.
How you doing? I'm Ken Wagaman. I live at 417 Washington. And again, to throw what you've integrated so far, is that, really appreciate the pilot program and hope that it actually is able to continue in Zone 3 for the parking permits, because it actually has made a difference where you can actually have somebody come over and visit and have a place to park. Other than that, so there went beforehand, it was very difficult to find any parking at all on our street. So thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheryl Smith.
Hello, members of City Council. My name is Cheryl, and I live on Kansas Street, and I'm here to say thank you so much for the preferential parking permit. I wanted to let you know that I can actually now pull out of my driveway and actually see cars coming down the street because they're not all blocked by the view, which when all those people are parking there, you can't see around them. It makes it hard, especially since I live across the street from Holly, Kansas Park. There's always that threat that there's going to be some kids running out, people walking their dogs. It just makes the neighborhood a whole bunch safer. So thank you so much for the parking permit. We really appreciate it. The only thing I would like to ask or add is maybe if we can consider our friends on Holly or California Street, maybe giving them a little bit more time on their permit as well, because they only have a 2 or 4 hour parking permit. So that would be great just to get everybody on the same page. Thank you so much. We really appreciate all your efforts. Have a great evening.
Thank you, you too.
Milo Halpine. It's gonna pass. All right, next up, Maria Raphael.
Hi, City Council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Maria Rafael, and I live across from Acacia Park. And I'm here to talk about the drama closet storage situation. Across from Acacia Park, there were multiple community meetings, even when that park was redone, to garner community input. So my concern is if we are cutting storage and efficacy of longstanding programs, or we're substantively changing the way that Rec and Park is served and built community for years, where is that kind of community input? I'm worried about the damage to the drama program that the current proposal would cause. I'm trying to consolidate here. We moved to El Segundo because of its very strong and tight-knit community. And for our family, that has been in no small part because of programs like ESYD that are incredible community strengthening and building programs. I'm concerned about the movement potentially to contractor-based programs. That concerns me, especially as it supplants hallmarks of our community like ESYD. I am also here as a parent and resident to advocate for a more broad-based storage plan for Parks and Rec. I also do not want our city staff working amongst boxes, and I think we need a centralized storage area for our city Parks and Rec program. I just think the current plan to use the drama storage closet hurts this longstanding community program, and I am advocating for council to look more broadly at perhaps building out current underutilized spaces to specifically meet city storage plans, and for a more collaborative way to look at other drama storage things that we can more easily move than that drama closet in the basement. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Did you hear me? I'm sorry, I had my mic off.
It's okay, it's Olo. Even my parents can't print, the last two O's confuse them. Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name's Jennifer Olo, and growing up here, my last name was Copeland. I am here both as a lifelong resident of El Segundo and also as a parent of 3 children who are actively involved in the El Segundo Youth Drama Program. The drama program's been a vibrant part of our community for over 40 years, fostering creativity, confidence, and connection for generations of young people. As a former participant myself, no blue wig and singing tonight, but I was there. I can speak to this program's ability to embrace and nurture children, and now as a parent, I see that same impact on my children and others in our community. There's been some misinformation that drama takes up 90% of the clubhouse building, and while the program does utilize space, it's important to note that the areas behind the curtain and cabinets in the tri-room and kitchen are not essential to the program, and I think that that adds to some of the perception of how much space is being used, because those are visible spaces. Drama's been working to maximize efficiency in our current downstairs storage space, taking steps to use every square foot wisely, and would be willing to relinquish those upstairs spaces to help address the perception of disproportionate usage. Maintaining the single downstairs storage closet is critical to the program's survival, and that's the main area we've been asked to vacate. The program's use of space must be considered alongside its impact. Drama is not just an extracurricular activity. It's a community builder. It's provided a safe space for children who may not find acceptance in sports or other activities, giving them a place to grow and express themselves and build confidence. And for many kids like me, drama was a lifeline. Its value cannot be measured solely in square footage. I understand that you may not have direct control over these decisions, but your influence matters. And I urge the Rec Park administration to work collaboratively with us to explore alternatives, such as finding storage for administrative needs in spaces that don't require specific climate control, rather than displacing a program that has served the community for decades. El Segundo's legacy is built on programs like this one.
Mrs. Olo.
They made our city
Mrs. Olo?
vibrant. And yes.
You're out of time. Thank you so
Oh,
much.
thank you.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Andy Siwak.
Clerk.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. My name is Andy Siwak. I am with LA Metro. I'm with the Local Government Relations Division, and I am with the South Bay Area Manager. I'm here tonight to talk about the recent realignment to the C&K line and the recent opening of the Aviation and Century Station. Well, I'll just kind of open up my map here. So, as you may know, the C line has traditionally run east to west from Norwalk along the 105 to Aviation LAX, where it veered south down to the 3 stations in El Segundo before terminating at Redondo Beach. On November 3rd, we opened up the Aviation Century Station, which is at the northwest corner of that intersection. And at the same time, we had a realignment. So now the C line terminates at that station. And if you want to go down to El Segundo Redondo, you transfer at that station to the K line. So the stations in El Segundo, which were historically have always been the C line, are now, as November 3rd, they are on the K line. And so the K line has essentially 2 spurs to it. It goes from Redondo Beach to Aviation Century, and then the northern part is from Westchester to Expo Crenshaw. The big question everyone always asks is, when is the airport metro station going to be opening, the LAX Metro Transit Center? I don't have a date for you tonight, but it will be in early 2025. So right now, the we're doing what's called pre-revenue testing, where trains are running between Aviation Century and Westchester to test it out. When the California PUC gives us permission, we will commence operations between there. And this should be a very impactful thing for South Bay residents in El Segundo. You can get on a train in El Segundo, 1 seat, get all the way up to Inglewood, get up to Expo Crenshaw and access the metro system along the E line and go into downtown or go into Santa Monica. I'm happy to leave these brochures. If you want to reach out to me, the city manager's office has my information. Thank you.
Thank you.
Brett Ryan.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. I'm here to support Zone 3. I know from the neighbors that have lived in that area what a huge change it has made. I'm in Zone 2, so I also wanted to add a request again for Zone 2 to include us in the 24/7. It makes a big difference. All of Kansas right now from Mariposa to Grand is 24/7, except the part next to Elon Point, and then both sides of Holly. I'm at 400 California Street on the corner of California and Holly, so the Holly parking most directly affects us on both sides. We have a petition that we passed around, and it's been signed by a lot of people. I have a copy of the petition for each of you, and we would just request that you consider making that 24/7 to match with Zone 3. The issues that we had before are better during the day, but it hasn't helped overnight, and it doesn't help on the weekends. We still have airport parking. We have non-resident parking. The young lady mentioned earlier that she was from the commercial area up there. Additionally, we have Jim and Jack's and other people south of Grand Avenue that still park there. So there's a lot of commercial parking, non-resident parking. People park all week there, get one ticket. They don't ticket again with El Segundo, and you get one ticket and you stay for the week and get airport parking, which is a pretty good deal. On the weekends, lately, we've had pickup trucks with trailers that are not registered to El Segundo. Mine is, they're supposed to be registered. They park on Friday night until Monday morning. So it is an ongoing problem, and we would appreciate you considering Zone 2. Appreciate your time. Thank you very much. May I give the copies?
Yeah, to the clerk. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
One last one, Bill McCaverty.
Mr. McCaverty? Yes.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, Bill McCaverty, 517 Kansas. I'm just another person here to say thank you very much for this magic little placard. This little placard has done amazing results for the residents of the affected areas. Number one, we are no longer the parking lot for LAX South for Uber. We have Uber drivers coming, pick people that park their cars there, go off 4, 5, 6 days, and leave them there and connect their Ubers. So that's a big relief. That's really opened up the streets. Opening up the streets had another good advantage because we're sandwiched between Center Street, the middle school, and we've got Kansas Park. Consequently, it's a good location because we have a lot of young families, mom, dads, babies, strollers, kids playing. And the streets are now alive with kids, which is nice to see other than being on the internet. They're out skating, they're out playing ball, and things like that. That's another great advantage. We're very, very appreciative of everything you've done. And I want to stress the importance of maintaining this permit policy because with the PCH corridor and, of course, the Grand development along Grand, it's only going to increase the vehicular traffic, which will compound parking issues. And without these very magic little placards, we'll be overwhelmed again. And it's really such a positive effect on the quality of life and the residents and neighborhood. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. McCaverty. All right, that concludes public comment. City Manager, would you like to address? We had several comments related to permit parking, which we're going to talk about later. We had the youth drama storage, which we've gotten a lot of communication about, but is not on the agenda. And there was also, well, the notion of the metro. Yeah, anyway, leave it to you.
Mayor, I'd just like to say regarding the youth drama program, I know that our Parks and Rec Director, Ms. Ellie Mancini, has been meeting with the folks from the drama program, the contractor that has that program on the site. I know they've been working, going back and forth on a suitable solution to the storage problem. And at this point, we'll just continue to work with them on a fair and equitable solution.
All right, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I was just curious if there's anything that you heard as proposed solutions that hadn't been discussed up until this point.
Well, I'll ask Ms. Mancini, anything new that you heard at the podium tonight?
I don't think I heard any proposed solutions. I heard some new concerns about some of the areas that we've proposed. But I'm meeting on site tomorrow, I think at 3:30 with the contractor and clubhouse staff to look at everything again.
Thank you. That's great. Appreciate that. Mayor Pro Tem.
Mr. Mayor, can I throw a suggestion that as we're about to pour an inordinate amount of money into Rec and Park, that we make sure that this gets factored into some of the capital improvement if we have a storage issue? Because certainly in our buildup to talking about the Rec and Park, or the Rec Park refit, this was not a condition or consideration that was raised, and it sounds like it's certainly impacting a percentage of the population.
Okay.
No, I think you're right. It's a sign of a bigger problem, and we are allocating millions of dollars, and we're talking about the teen center, we're talking about grass and fields. We haven't even gotten to the Jocelyn Center, to the clubhouse.
Right.
So this might be a good role for our Parks and Rec Commission to really roll up their sleeves and say what's working out there, and come to us with some ideas about how can we improve it. When we get to that point, which is probably phase 2 or probably phase 3, when we want to start redeveloping these city assets for our residents, it's going to be great to have this input to know what's been working and how can we improve it. So I'd like to see the commission get involved and try to answer some of these bigger questions that Mayor Pro Temp is raising.
Okay.
And just additive, I mean, we can also look at temporary solutions. You know, maybe there's that area, you know, we talked about areas that are on the patio area that we could maybe put some temporary storage units. So I think we should look at all aspects and look for a solution for the short term, and then understanding what the needs are for the long term in the future development.
Okay. Thank you.
Can I add one thing on Metro, Mr. Mayor? And I think when it comes to transit things, we tend to speak transit and not out as people necessarily understand them. So the C line is the green line. The K line is the one that takes you up to West LA or Mid-City. Right now, you can't take that train. So you have to get off at Century, get on a bus, and then it will take you to the next spur. So don't ride it yet, but soon it will connect you all the way north. If you do want to change trains and go out to Norwalk, you have to go up to Century. So the stop that you change off is not our traditional aviation stop. It's one stop further north, then you come back down, and then you shoot due east. So that is a big change of routing for those of us who take the trains, but when it is conductive all the way to West LA, it should be a significant improvement on the way most of us experience ridership.
All right, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Mr. George, are you going to address Hyperion now or later?
I'm sorry, which item, Mayor?
Hyperion.
Later, I'll cover Hyperion. Thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, procedural motions. Do we have a motion to read all ordinances and resolutions on the agenda by title only?
Baldino so moves.
Persick, second.
Okay, all's in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 4-0. On to consent, any polls? No, great. Do we have a motion to approve?
Wait,
Persick.
one sec. For your warrants last time, you did read that there was a correction, so there will be a correction made to your minutes after they're approved this evening, just so you know. Okay?
Yeah,
Got it?
I don't, can you clarify that? I don't see that in here.
Yeah, the warrant demand register on consent for the November 5th, 2024 City Council meeting stated the incorrect warrant register numbers in the recommendation section of the staff report. Warrant register 7A, 7B, and 8A were approved on consent on November 5th, 2024.
Okay, so noted.
So I'll move approval as amended by the city clerk.
Persick, second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
4-0. All right, aye. I'm an aye as well. Okay, move. First was Baldino, second Perstuck, 4-0. All right, we are on to the first item, staff presentations. Actually, can we handle item 12 first? Would you be okay with that? Or actually 13, sorry. Let's do 13 first, because we have a whole bunch of people here that talked about parking.
Sure, if you
Can we move
counsel would
13
like
up,
that. Yep.
please? Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. Regarding this item, Mr. Richard Garland is going to make a presentation regarding the Zone 3, and you can come here. I'll change the slides for you.
Wait for the slide to get up. There we go. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Richard Garland, and I'm a consulting traffic engineer that has been assisting the City of El Segundo for several years with various traffic and parking issues. In fact, the first time I was at a presentation with the City Council, Carl Jacobson was mayor, so it's been a while. Okay, slide 2. The topic of tonight's agenda item is preferential parking permit zone 3, which is the area bounded by, as shown on the map, it's bounded by Indiana Street on the east, California Street on the west, Mariposa on the north, and Holly on the south. This permit parking zone was established in March of this year. It's relatively new, based on data from a parking survey that we conducted back in November a year ago. The primary issue that was addressed by this program was that people who did not live in this area were parking in front of residents' homes. Subsequent to the initial establishment of the, we're still on slide 3, but anyway, subsequent to the initial establishment of the permit parking zone in March, minor modifications were made at a City Council meeting in September of this year, and we were then asked to do a follow-up before and after study to evaluate the effectiveness of the preferential parking program. Now slide 3, this is a figure that shows the current parking restrictions. The red areas are no parking except by permit, 24 hours a day. The blue zone is a 2-hour parking. The purple is a 2-hour parking zone, but it allows residents with permits to park long-term between 6 p.m. and 6 in the morning, and that's the west side of Illinois. And then the green, just a short green strip, that just allows 4-hour parking next to the park. Slide 4. The methodology for our parking survey was to count the number of parked cars on each side of all of these streets, these 21 street segments. We counted cars on both sides of the street, and we did the surveys from 7 in the morning until midnight on a weekday, on a Saturday, and on a Sunday, just so that we could have all bases covered. The objective was to determine which blocks are parked at or near capacity, and to compare the current parking conditions to the conditions from a year ago before the implementation of the permit parking program. The before and after survey demonstrated the effects of the parking restrictions, and it sheds light on what additional minor changes we might, or the city might want to make to the permit program. The key findings of the survey, 1, is that there was a substantial reduction in the number of cars that were parked mostly on Illinois and Indiana Street, and on the south side of Mariposa Avenue between Indiana and Illinois. And then that huge reduction in the number of cars. And then as some of the residents stated, there were improvements on the other streets as well, particularly Washington and Kansas. The second key finding is that there was a substantial increase in the number of cars parked on Mariposa Avenue, particularly between Illinois and Washington, because the cars that were displaced from these residential streets, a lot of those people moved over to Mariposa. And there was no substantial change on many of the other streets like California and Pine. Okay, slide 6. So the recommendations. Based on the results of the survey, we developed these preliminary recommendations. On the east side of Indiana, between Pine Avenue and Holly Avenue, we're suggesting to keep the 2-hour parking restriction, but to add that Zone 3 permits are exempt. Currently, on the west side of this block of Indiana Street, it's fully parked up almost every hour that we were out there. So by allowing people with permits to also park on the east side, which is next to a parking lot, that would make it easier for those residents that live on that block of Indiana. Recommendation number 2 is the west side of Illinois Street, between Mariposa and Holly, that entire 2-block section. We're suggesting to keep the 2-hour parking restrictions, but instead of saying overnight parking permitted, allow residents to park there 24 hours a day with, if they have the Zone 3 permit. That would be, of course, beneficial to the residents by allowing them to park on both sides of Illinois Street. The disadvantage, of course, is that they would be parking in spaces that during the daytime users of the park would want. So that's something that you might want to give some consideration, whether to make it 24 hours or keep it as a nighttime only restriction, or nighttime only use by the residents. Recommendation number 3 is to keep Holly Avenue between Illinois and Kansas unchanged. Just keep it the way it is with unrestricted parking. Lots of cars are being parked there, but they don't really seem to be negatively impacting anybody because it's at the south end of the park. It's on the side of people's houses instead of in front, and it's next to the industrial area, which probably needs the parking spaces. And then 4th recommendation is to keep Mariposa Avenue the way it is, unchanged, as an unrestricted parking area, except for the south side of the street between between Indiana and Illinois, because that already has the permit parking for that 1 block. Slide 7. So this shows what the recommendations would be. It has the 2-hour parking restriction on the east side of Indiana between Mariposa and Pine, because that's next to the Fairfield Inn, which was, I still call it the Hacienda Hotel, but and so they need that as a short-term parking zone. We're suggesting to keep the 2-hour parking on Illinois Street, the west side of Illinois Street, and the east side of Indiana Street, south of Pine Avenue, but to allow residents with permits to be able to park on those 2 streets 24/7. And the next slide, the next set of slides, if anybody's interested, it shows pictures of the parking situation on each of these blocks. There's probably 8 or 10 slides. Is anybody interested in seeing those? Or you maybe just flip through them. Yeah. So that's it. That concludes my presentation. Are there any questions?
Thank you, sir. I'm sure we'll have some questions here, or at least comments for staff. Anyone?
No, I'm just curious, when was the consultant brought on? Was this after we started the pilot program, just to come measure and confirm results, or were you involved in the beginning? Because
we were involved before the program was put into place. We did parking surveys about a year, in November of last year, just to look at the existing conditions at the time. Then the permit parking program went in and changed a couple of times, and then we did the survey after the program was put in place. So,
did you make the original recommendations on what the parking permit program should be?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Although it was modified.
It was
somewhat.
modified.
Yes.
It was. Okay.
Mayor, Council, if I may, I just wanted to note the overlaying time period of the pilot program here. As was noted, the original pilot program was slated to extend through the end of April 2025, and then there was an adjustment to that for purposes of the resolution that's included in the agenda. It does currently read as being extended through April 30th, 2025, but that is flexible, and I think we would, in addition to what the parameters of any extension of the program, we'd also want direction on what the time period you would want that to run through would be. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Perstuck.
So I'd like to also see, or to hear from the police department to find out how many citations they've had to issue, or is just the fact of having a permit with a sticker, with a placard, preventing or stopping people from parking there, or have we had to issue citations?
Yes, they have, and I believe I received a copy of the report. There has been 184 citations that have been issued so far.
So my challenge, trying to understand the, on the areas that are now purple or like a dark blue, currently it's only 2-hour parking, and now what's being discussed is maybe potentially going to 24 hours for permit parking. The challenge is, you know, I'm not big on the pendulum always swinging so far. So we put the 2-hour parking in there for a reason, and the reason was access to the park, and then that is a commercial zone on Indiana. So, you know, is there a happy medium? Is it to allow overnight parking that goes all the way till 8 a.m., so which is normal street sweeping time? I just want to make sure we're not, I'm not a big fan of the pendulum going one like this.
Yeah.
So how do we do it where we're still enabling people to have access to the park, and then also use of the commercial zone?
So and you're welcome to chime in. The happy medium, in my opinion, would be to allow the individuals who have permit to park overnight along east side of Indiana from Holly to Pine. Just like the way it is now, which we allow them to park along west side of Illinois, but they're allowed to park overnight only with a permit. But in daytime, the 2-hour restrictions applies to everyone, including the individuals with permit, if that makes sense.
And then, but I know originally it was like 6 a.m. That seems a bit early. So, I mean, usually street sweeping's 8 a.m. and everyone has 8 a.m. in their head that they have to go move their car for 8 a.m. So I think if we do that, we bleed to 8 a.m. So it's more reasonable hour for overnight parking.
Yeah, right now, residents with permit could park overnight without being ticketed along west side of Illinois from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., which really means they could start parking 4 p.m. till 8 a.m. the following day because of the 2-hour, if that makes sense. Yeah.
We had a couple requests from constituents, or at least I did, I'm not sure if anyone else did, but about treating Zone 2 the same way as Zone 3. This accomplishes some of that, or no? The idea that instead of having windows is 24/7, like Zone 3.
Yeah, Zone 3, when we originally came to the city council, it was similar to Zone 2, but the city council decided to make Zone 3 24/7. So what we have in Zone 2 is different. We have 2 hours, 1 hour in the morning, 1 hour in the afternoon, which is restricted. A couple of hours in the morning, couple of hours in the afternoon. It's not 24/7.
And I know we brought that, sorry.
No, I was just going to point out that's different from other places. They've already went through their petition process and got it from just like once a week. Twice a day you have to move your car.
Correct.
To stop the Ubers, to stop people who don't live on that block from parking in that block.
Right.
Do we have information on how that has been working, if it's been effective? Because that's what was proposed for Zone 3,
Yes.
and we want 24-hour.
So the emails that I have received, everybody seemed to be okay with Zone 2. In fact, in my humble opinion, they seem to be satisfied. And you heard from 1 or 2 of them who live there. The circumstances for Zone 2 were different than Zone 3. The issues the residents had for Zone 3 were not the same as Zone 2. That's why the hours are different.
Yeah, at least I've heard. Have you heard from a couple? I know I heard from a couple people. So it's just worth looking into. I mean, I don't know how long this pilot is going to be, given what our city attorney said, but that's something we might want to revisit. The other item I wanted to bring up is having, again, experienced permit parking in El Segundo when I lived on California Street. It isn't easy to get permits when you're hosting people, and one of the residents brought that up specifically, and Palos Verdes apparently has software. Do you have any ideas about how we could allow people to procure their own permits as opposed to having to go through the city? Because when you're hosting people, it's a pain. You gotta like go to your neighbors and try and gather up as many as you can get. So that's something we should consider. This is gonna, sounds like it's gonna be a permanent thing, this permit parking, so.
Right. So that's one of the reasons that the recommendation that Mr. Garland had was to leave the, the area along Mariposa and Holly unrestricted as a breathing room, if you would, for those cases where there's a birthday party or some gathering, so the guests who may not be able to get the neighbor's placard, guest placards, they can come and park along those streets. Yeah, go ahead.
And if I could add to that, some of the other cities that I've worked on these parking permit programs do have ways to make it easier for people to get, if they want to get 20 one-day permits for their guests, they can do that online and then print them out at home and put them in people's windshields. That is available.
Yeah, I understand, thank you. I understand your point, Mr. Sassoon, but this resident specifically was talking about older people and having to walk 2-3 blocks to get to their house potentially if you're coming from Mariposa, so. They just think it's something we should consider as an alternative. Can't be that expensive, I would think.
As Mr. Richard Garland indicated, other cities have different policies. I used to work in Rancho Palos Verdes, and people would come to City Hall and apply and get 15, 20, 10, for one night. And we did that, but I don't believe our code allows that, or at least from what I remember, our municipal code does not allow issuing additional guest placards. It does not mention that.
But we can change that, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Okay, any other thoughts?
Just one other thing. From a police perspective, having the zones and being managed very differently, how is that problematic, or does it, because one of the issues I always had was when you put these specific hours, like we do in Zone 2, we're not staffing our police department to accommodate that. Like, we're not changing staffing time to accommodate those specific hours. So my question is, I'm not a big fan of, when we do something over here, there's very different. I like uniformity, and so I was just curious if having the two programs causes challenges.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. Yes, it can be challenging. Because like I mentioned, maybe 90 days ago, we talked about the main people that are doing the enforcement for parking are our cadets. They do probably 90% of the enforcement. We do tend to, like we have been focusing on Zone 3, so they're very well familiar with what's going on in that zone. And then when we have any updates, we do let them know, hey, there's different changes to the ordinance, whatever we may be doing. Can be challenging, but we can meet the demand if we do start doing different things in Zone 2, Zone 3. As you saw when we talked about how many citations we issued, there was 184 roughly. Most of those happened in June and July. Started seeing it kind of tapering down in August and October and September, probably because we had a change in the behavior. So the cadets were doing very effective work out there. I think people got the notice that they're getting citations. Long story short, yes, we can make it happen. It is a little challenging, but we are confident that our cadets can get the job done if they have to.
Can you tell us a little bit about how this parking pilot program has helped impact the homeless issue that neighbors were experiencing in that area?
Well, again, now if they have the ability to see if there's anybody living in a car, definitely we can go out there and do the outreach, have them move from that area, do what we're doing with our patches program, be made aware of that, and go do additional reference contacts, if you will. So that is beneficial to us, definitely, for sure.
And if I may add, this is already done, by the way. In our patch meetings that we have, we've already done that. Thank you.
Great.
Just to, if I may, Mayor, Council, for under the code, the default is 3 permits per dwelling unit. For those that live there, if you have more than 3 vehicles registered, you can show that to staff. And there, per dwelling unit, there's also an allowance of 2 visitor permits per dwelling unit that's already on the books.
Would today be the appropriate time to amend that then? Or would
Yeah,
that have to come back?
there, what we've seen through this parking zone 3 experiment is that we're utilizing elements of our code and this preferential parking zone permit, but there's also a broader, more blanket allowance under the vehicle code that we're tapping into to fill in some of the gaps given the direction from the council. So we can definitely bump that up, but we would have to do that via ordinance. Right now, we just have a resolution regarding the parameters, but we can include that for the specific zone under the vehicle code, but there is a little tension between what's in the parameters of this parking zone and that whole scheme and other things that we're implementing under state law. So we can get there, absolutely, but
That would be a subsequent meeting, though, is what I hear you saying for the code change, or
for
no?
the code change, yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Was there any thought given to the 1500 block of Mariposa? Because the 1500 to 1540 are probably the ones who are reaping the whirlwind of pushing cars around. I mean, that's our highest density block on here that's probably receiving cars pushed to it. Is there any, was that subject to any of the counts at all?
Which block is that?
Yeah, do you know from where to where on Mariposa?
Yeah, Mariposa, that's between Kansas and the start of the park. 1540 is Washington East. 1500 to 1540 is Kansas to Washington.
Kansas.
Yeah, that was included in the parking survey. We counted the number of cars every hour of the day on those blocks.
That was a leading question.
And
It's jammed.
There were a lot of cars.
More
on
than
there.
100% capacity on the math.
People are parking in front of driveways and red curbs.
That's right. So we've created a problem, and we knew we would, right? Whenever you do permit parking, you're just pushing the problem around. Is there any wisdom to including the 1500 block of Mariposa in this zone? And are we even allowed to do that, City Attorney?
So just to make sure, the 1500 block is from Kansas to Washington?
Yeah, 1500 to 1560 or something, 1570 gets you to the park's edge.
To Washington?
It gets you halfway, it gets you, so no, 1500, 1540 is Kansas to Washington, and 1540 and beyond gets you to the grass.
I mean, isn't the precedent that we have to have a petition? That's how this started in the first place, right?
Well, that's where we're getting into this space beyond the code that says under the vehicle code by resolution, the city council can restrict parking and reserve spaces for residents, for adjacent businesses. So we're borrowing from the vehicle code to implement some of the desires of the council. So it's not strictly limited what we're doing to the municipal code. There is broader allowance under state law that we're tapping into to get there. It is allowable.
I mean, look, I don't love the parking permit blob because it is an unstoppable blob. I mean, it will never cease. But you know, you're trying to push basically to the end of comfortable walking distance to the hotel, right? Is sort of the outer limit of this. How far would you drag a suitcase? And is that case 1500 on Mariposa? I'm only putting it out there because when you look at those numbers, we've clearly encumbered those people by having cars all over the street.
So the problem I have with this pilot program is that I feel like we're not learning anything. And I feel like we would not just roll this out down Washington all the way north and expect to have 24/7 parking. But this neighborhood was besieged with some untenable situations of homeless and over parking. So I'm okay with how we got to where we are. But I think there's a larger conversation about when Pacific Coast Commons comes on board, when new housing developments are going to be crammed into this sliver of area, how do we deal with parking on a wholesale basis? That might be another conversation that's more involved, but I think we're well within our parameters to say on that East Mariposa, if it's not 24/7, then maybe it's something we have on California where you've got to move those cars twice a day to avoid the airport parkers, to avoid the workers, you know, and then it's still not a permit per se, but hopefully opens up a little more, unless you're saying we want to give those residences on those blocks permits, so at least they can have the same ability to park in front of their house that we're offering to everyone else in their neighborhood.
Well, I think because of where they are, they're uniquely receiving the brunt
Absolutely.
of this. You know, there's sort of two separate points that we're discussing, like the fact that all of the development agreements on the housing there requires parking on site, and I think it's reasonable to say that no one who owns those places is parking on their premises. They're parking on the street, right? There's all those garages, I'm sure, are full of Halloween decorations, but we did require, right, that there be parking at those residences. And I know Biz House uniquely is sort of miscategorized because we didn't have, and may still not have, a co-working space parking plan, right? That thing is parked for like 4 people, like it's still a warehouse, as opposed to the gajillion people who work there. So looking into how we are sort of enforcing and not creating moral hazard around not requiring people to park in their unparked places. I mean, that's a slightly different piece. Right now, I'm just saying with this parking zone, we're crushing those people in Mariposa. We're just crushing them.
I don't disagree. I think we need to decide if you're saying they should have 24 and a permit on both sides, Kansas through Illinois, or do you want to go to Illinois court?
Well, there's no residences there. I mean, the only the places that are hit mostly is on eastbound Mariposa, and I guess a little bit westbound, just west of the park. But that's the only place that really got housing there. Yeah, Kansas to Washington.
Yeah. So those residential from Kansas to Washington kind of close that off, and hopefully, to your point, making it far enough to where it's too far to walk.
That some of the.
I'm not even going to look there.
I would also say that I think our current plan of having the park, you can overnight park, the residents with a permit can park overnight on the west side of Illinois, on the park side, because the park is closed. But by day, we can't make that a private parking lot. I mean, that's a public amenity.
No, it wouldn't. Like I said,
but
you took that up Washington Street. Now we just have residents parking around all of our parks, and you can't get access to it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So right now, this plan of exempting permits from 2-hour parking next to the park, I think that forecloses use of the park for everyone else.
Yeah, because they can be there 24/7. They never have to move that car.
Didn't we learn, though, that, Mayor Pro Tem, I thought we heard that the use of the park was primarily residents. I don't know if staff ever validated that, but that isn't a lot of people, there aren't a lot of people driving in to visit that park?
That's anecdotal evidence that I was also told that people walk to that park, but you're not going to go to a park if there's
Hold on,
nowhere
I think Mrs. Mancini wanted to weigh in on that. Did you have something to say on that?
Well, I think typically it's resident use, but we do have, with AYSO is practicing out there some nights a week. So those folks, I think some of them would probably be driving in. So it might be a little bit of a mixed.
You're talking about Washington?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, Freedom Park, though, like, who,
It'd be residents.
is that really a draw? People driving in town to go to Freedom Park?
But it's a public amenity.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't make it the parking lot of an apartment complex. It's a public amenity. And that's like a takings.
No, I agree with Chris. What do you feel about this additional, is it just overnight on Indiana in the commercial zone, Elias?
I'm
Is
sorry.
your recommendation to allow 24/7 on the commercial strip on Indiana, or just overnight?
Overnight.
Okay, so during the
Overnight.
day, commercial, but at night?
Yes. So again, if you allow me to, if you don't mind to elaborate, about halfway meeting is halfway medium, happy meeting area to me. This from Pine to Holly on the east side along Indiana. Residents with permit, they would be allowed to park overnight.
And that's fine. That abuts a parking lot. The only other people who are using that are people who didn't want to pay for parking in that parking lot. Like, that's totally, that makes complete sense.
And if you say 6 to 6, 6 p.m. to 6, that gets them from 4 to 8.
To 8, yes, ma'am. That's what I would recommend. That's a happy medium.
Well, before we try to form any consensus on modifications, should we agree to bring this back in another 6-8 months, right? Because if we do this, now we know might create problems somewhere else. It'd be nice to have at least a report back on it to say, this isn't working, or we need to tweak this. So I don't know if that's 6 months, a
Can you
year.
go back to the recommendations before we answer that question, those 3 that you brought up?
Yes, the recommendation.
Can you bring it up on here?
It's right there.
Oh, yes.
It's the purple.
Oh, thank you.
It's the purple.
No, there was some bullet points
No,
I was
there's the
looking
bullet
for.
point. Yeah.
Elias, if I may, before you change that, this is something that helped me. So previously, on the right side, on Indiana, the only thing that's proposed to change is that purple half from Pine to Holly, that's changing from light blue to purple. Right,
Correct.
Elias?
Correct.
That's basically what's proposed.
That's right. If someone has a permit, they can leave their car there all day and all night long.
Yeah.
In the purple zone.
So that's the
On
original in the staff report
Correct.
proposal, but
That's what
of
the
course we can do more.
recommendation is. However, I feel that happy medium is to allow residents with permit to park only overnight.
6 to
Not
6.
24/7, just overnight.
On Indiana.
Along its side of Indiana from Pine to Holly.
Because it is a commercial area.
Right.
So the 2 purples.
And this is the
The 2
verbiage.
purples then don't become 24/7 for permit. They become 6 to 6. for
Correct.
permit.
6 p.m. to 6 a.m. We keep that along Illinois, west side, and then we keep the 2-hour restriction. But residents with permit could park overnight only from Pine to Holly overnight, from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. next day, which is practically 4 p.m. to 8 a.m. the following day, practically. And here's the verbiage, Mayor.
Yeah, I'm not following that last part of your recommendation, Elias. So what's the harm in allowing them to park 24/7? I'm thinking the commercial that's there, it's a hotel that has a parking lot, unless I'm getting the block wrong. So what commercial are we worried about having parking spaces? The Walgreens is the other block. The brewery, maybe? I mean, I don't understand.
Yeah,
what
you got
commercial-
Sugar Monkey, there's a floor hardware area there.
I mean, but
You're
Sugar
right
Mark-
next to PCH.
Technically, everything in that Biz House Sugar Monkey parcel should have adequate parking, technically, which is the same as you were talking about residential.
Yeah, I mean, that argument goes both ways. We're dealing
Yeah.
with more cars than we have space.
I don't believe that we should limit that someone on Indiana has to maybe potentially move their car with a permit at 8 a.m. Who knows what hours they're working? I understand why we would restrict that.
But it's not it's not on their side of the street where they live. This is on the commercial zone, the commercial area. Same with the park.
That would suggest that there's adequate parking on both sides of the street for all those domiciles there. Is there?
Well, the side of the streets that are adjacent to the residences on Illinois and Indiana are almost filled up all the time. And when we were doing our surveys, I got stopped by a lot of residents, and that's why I'm probably thinking more for their benefit, is that they said, hey, why do we have to move our car at 8 in the morning? Well,
I concur with that logic. I don't understand, but thank you. Okay, appreciate that. All right. Any further discussion? Someone to make a motion? I think we gotta get the consensus first.
Yeah, let's
so
see if we can
before
put
we
this,
do anything with
put this
these,
together. I like Chris's idea of including Mariposa. And again, do you want to do that like California, where you got to move it twice a day, or do you want to go 24/7? Because I feel once you go 24/7, you can't ever take that away from somebody, right? That's the issue we're having, is we're giving these entitlements, and there's no way we're going to say, oh, you don't get that permit anymore.
Well, that's why it's a pilot.
Yeah, true, in theory. In a perfect world.
Mayor Council, is it, as far as low-hanging fruit, do we have consensus that pushing out another 6 months to revisit this would be amenable to.
Is anyone opposed to extending the pilot another 6 months?
Not at all. No. We'll probably need another 6 months after that to fine tune it, right? We got to roll up our sleeves and figure it out. That's fine. But let's see if we can get consensus on changing this now. Chris, I agree with you that Illinois Street permit should be overnight only. On Indiana, the 24/7, I'm indifferent. So I'm up to be persuaded by an argument one way or another. And I like the idea of adding the Kansas through Washington by the park, to add that into some type of program to help it mitigate the impacts they're feeling. So I think those are the three things we talked about in circles, and
Yeah.
if anyone helps clarify.
So I'll agree with you and Chris on the Mariposa. I think it should be 24/7, to make it easier for the police department and the residents. And then I'm also indifferent on the Indiana, but I do think the park area should be available for people to come in the park during the day.
Wouldn't we have the same issue if you're in favor of 24/7 for enforcement on one street? Wouldn't that hold true for the other, or no?
Well, the difference is we're talking about the residential frontage of Mariposa, stopping at where the grass starts on the park.
Right, but I'm talking about, you're proposing 24/7 on Mariposa, correct?
Yeah, just making it a part of the red zone.
Yeah.
I'll stick with colors.
But not doing it on Indiana.
No, Indiana.
I thought you said you were impartial on Indiana.
No, Indiana, we're talking about the commercial zone on the east side.
Isn't it Indiana that we were talking about? You were saying I proposed shutting off at 6, which is really 8.
That's the.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I'm talking about. Is
But
that
now we're saying we're indifferent either way.
That's what
so-
I'm asking you. I said, you're okay with, you want to enforce it 24/7 on one block for law enforcement, ease of
Yeah.
use, but not do it on the other? That's
Because
what
I
I'm trying to
think
clarify.
the park is an amenity that people should be able to get to.
Okay, that's where I differ from you guys, but there's consensus on that. So far, we have the pilot extended for 6 months. We're adding Mariposa at 24/7, although the mayor pro tem hasn't weighed in on that part of it.
No, I take credit for that.
Okay. And
by
then-
that, I mean someone's going to egg my house.
And for clarity, that would be Mariposa from Kansas up to. the park.
It's effectively Kansas to Illinois, but there's just you just run out of houses. It's the
Okay.
1,500 blocks.
Got it. So that would all be red.
Kansas to Illinois court.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
And then Indiana Street, it looks like it's your suggestion, Mr. Sassoon?
Yes.
Enforcement from 6 to 6?
Yes, only from Pine to Holly though.
Correct.
And keep the Pine to Mariposa
2 hours.
as restricted.
And when you say restricted, you mean 2 hours?
2 hour yes.
Okay, anyone opposed to that?
I mean, that's the one where I would be okay with if you had a parking tag being able to park there without a 2-hour limit. But that's just because the only thing that abuts that is there's like 10 spots there, and it's just A-loft parking. It's A-loft workers and people who don't want to pay to park in the A-loft lot.
Are you absolutely certain of that?
No. It's just when I'm parking there to avoid paying for the A-loft. I'm kidding.
So do you want that to be permitted? You can park
It was
anytime?
That was my concept, but I'm not it's
fine.
not a hill to die on.
I'm here to be convinced by your cogent argument. I want to be persuaded. I want to leave here being happy about my decision.
I do not see a compelling commercial or public access argument against it.
Okay, so let's try to summarize.
Though I
it.
am sensitive, certainly, to Biz House, which is by there, but the fact that we underpark Biz House is, I believe, a separate issue.
Totally different issue. Okay, so the proposal would then be, and I think we have consensus, the Indiana from Pine to Holly, you can park 24/7 with a permit. Otherwise, it's 2-hour commercial. Illinois, east side, Holly up to Mariposa, you can park there overnight with a permit.
West side, Illinois west side. Yeah.
Thank you, west side. And then adding 24/7
24/7 permit parking requirements, Mariposa, Kansas, up through Washington, covering those residential houses, or should we just say Illinois court?
Yeah, I think it's Kansas to Illinois court.
Okay.
I got that.
And with the caveat on bring it back in 6 months and we'll make it even more confusing for you. We'll do our best with what we got and try to make it work for everybody.
If I may, speaking of confusion, I have quite a bit on my own on that last summary. So for Indiana and Illinois, can we go over those again? What's changing?
The light blue is going to remain a 2-hour parking commercial.
Okay.
The dark purple, which is across the street from the residential, is going to be now part of the 24/7 parking permit.
I thought that was overnight with permit.
That's what we said. You guys said 6 over 6. I was making the argument 24/7.
Right. We come back around to the mayor's argument now.
Okay, so that's going to be red.
Wait, did we get consensus on that, or is this you and me?
No.
Okay.
So we're talking about on Indiana, the purple becoming red, essentially.
Yes.
Okay.
The only thing that's saying purple is.
It won't be quite red. So let
It
me.
won't be red, it'll be
would
2
you-
hours.
Yeah, would you let me to summarize that if you don't mind? Let me see if I'm gonna go very slowly. So, along east side of Indiana, the block from Mariposa to Pine is going to be 2-hour parking restriction anytime for everybody. From Pine to Holly on the east side, it still is going to be 2-hour restriction with everybody, except if you have a permit, you can park overnight from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. of the following day.
And we're saying that with that permit, you can park there as long as you want. So 2-hour parking, if you don't have a permit. If you do have a permit, it's not 2-hour parking by day.
That sounds red.
It's
It's
Go ahead.
orange.
Who cares what the color is? Can we just note what some of us are colorblind.
So basically, you can only park there if you have a permit.
No.
2 hour.
If you don't have a permit, you have 2 hours.
24/7.
Got it. So
If you have a permit,
okay.
you can park there. If you have a residential
So
permit.
2 hours.
2-hour
permit
commercial,
exempt.
unless you have a permit.
Overnight or the whole day?
Whole
The whole day.
Okay, all day.
And that's Pine-Holly
On Indiana.
on Indiana. Got it.
And we're putting your cell phone number on the permit tags, Elias. They can call you with questions.
You're on a roll, Elias. Okay, what else
Oh,
you got?
okay, I'm sorry, I missed that. So on Indiana, on the east side, if you have a permit, you could park there regardless, 24/7,
South of Pine.
south of Pine. Got it. Okay.
We good on the rest? Everyone
You want to do the other two?
I was gonna
And then
say,
just-
yeah,
Are you clear?
there's
I got
mud.
those so far. Yeah.
I think we are.
Okay.
Do we need a motion or something?
Well, I don't think so, because you gotta go back and you gotta basically revise this, right? Or would you like us to move approval on this?
Yeah. I mean, so did we miss anything from? So we got Mariposa, we got Pine-Holly on Indiana. Is there anything else in
You
addition
have
to
the
that?
Illinois, the west side of Illinois,
Along the park.
along the park.
What is happening there?
It's going to stay what it is now.
It's no change from what we're doing right now.
Okay. All right. Not changing. All right.
Probably.
Anything else changing?
Not if we cut the conversation off right now.
Sounds good.
Pardon me, just.
No, wait a minute. They can't park there overnight now.
No, they can't. We changed it last time.
Oh, okay.
On Mariposa, from Kansas to Illinois court was both sides. Am I correct? Both sides of Mariposa. Am I correct?
Except for this little stretch, it's already.
Yeah, the little section is already red, but I want to make sure.
I think it has to be.
On both sides.
I think it has to be, yeah.
Okay.
For clarity, both sides. Are you talking about north and south sides of Mariposa? Or are you just saying?
Well, you're just gonna push people right across the street. right? If we just make it the south side, those people are just going to park on the north side because the blob will continue to grow.
And so, by extension,
So everybody with a 15 at the start of their address on Mariposa will be in the red.
And so the existing one we have on Mariposa between Illinois and Indiana will also be extended to the north side of the street, is that correct?
That's right. All the
Okay.
1,500 series addresses.
When will this be implemented? Because does it make sense to have us come back one more time to make sure we have this right? There's been a lot of back and forth. When are we talking about actually executing this? If we approve tonight, we've got the resolution. How quickly will this go into effect? What's the plan?
Yeah, we have to order the signs, and that's really, sometimes it takes a while. So it makes sense for us to
We should have them on stock.
maybe bring this item back sometime in January to make sure with a new, if you would, map that everybody looks at, if that's okay with you.
Is the council okay with that? Would you want to, do you want
I
to just?
get it. I think we're good to move. Come back in 6 months. They come back
February.
in January.
No,
if
no.
we change it again, all we're going to do is be changing this program.
February, Madam
The only,
Clerk.
the only
run it
part that
sometime.
gives me pause is Mariposa.
No, February. February?
The only thing, Mayor Pro Tem, that gives me pause is your idea about Mariposa, just because I've got one email about it. That's it. And it was a street
Yeah.
sweeping issue thing. So I would just hate to be rash, but
No,
it's up
that's
to you
fine.
guys.
We can do that, and then that would give the city time to give notice to the people
Yeah.
at the 1500 block that congratulations.
So practically what we're doing is like exactly like what this slide is there already, except we are adding Mariposa,
Correct.
essentially. So do we need to even come back? I mean, if that's pretty clear to me.
Was this proposing, though, the 6 to 6 or the 24/7 on Indiana?
Well, the recommendation was on Indiana, the east side, was to make it
20
24/7.
Oh, okay, it was
for permits.
Elias that said after the fact, 6 to 6. Okay, I'm fine with moving forward then if you guys are. Just want to make sure we got it right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we have consensus.
All right.
And again, we'll see it again in 6 months and
City Attorney, would you read the
Do it all over again.
resolution by title, please?
this pilot plane that never lands.
Thank you, Mayor.
Get the signs LED so we can keep changing them.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of El Segundo, California, designated preferential parking zone number 3 and associated hourly restrictions pursuant to Vehicle Code Section 22-500 at SEC is available for a vote.
All right, who would like to make a motion to adopt?
Persick, so moved.
Second?
Sure, Baldino seconds.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 4-0. All right, we're going back.
Before you move on, I inadvertently missed a commenter, and she would like to be able to speak.
Sure.
If you would please allow that, it was my
Is it
mistake.
related to this issue?
No, it is related to the El Segundo youth drama.
Sure.
All right, Miss Kelly Williams?
I'll keep it really quick. Thanks. And it's nice to see you, Carol and Drew from the ESMO board. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, City Clerk Weaver. Just very quickly, I'm here to support El Segundo Youth Drama. I'm an arts professional that's been in the field for 28 years, and I was going to share some statistics that students that participate in self-selected out-of-school arts programming are 5 times more likely to graduate from high school. They are 4 times more likely to be recognized for academic success and achievement. And in the current listing for the participation in Parks and Rec, there are 219 opportunities to participate in sports, aquatics, and fitness, and there are only 19 to participate in the arts. I'm not asking for more support for the arts, I'm just asking for status quo. And in my current role, I'm the Director of Youth and K-12 Programs at the Lucas Museum of Narrative Art, and I work very closely with our collections management staff. And so we're in charge of all of the costumes from Lucasfilms, and putting our costumes in the outdoor space will attract mold, mildew, and also vermin. And so I would like to motion that the holiday decorations go to the outdoor space and we keep the indoor space. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for taking time out of your evening. Appreciate it. Thank you, Madam Clerk, for accommodating. I'm sure staff heard you, Director of Rexon Park and City Manager. Thank you very much. All right, we're going on to item 11, fiscal year 2024, 2020. Unless, really quickly, sorry, I'm so sorry, CFO. Is there anyone here for the 1% for the art update specifically? I know no one's really here for the, I'm sorry, no one's here for the quarter for financial report. No offense. We have, someone's here for 1%. Okay, can we move up 1% for the arts? One more? You okay with that?
Yes, I just, you wanted to make a
Are you okay with time? Strong?
Yes,
Okay.
we're good, thank you.
Okay, Mrs. Mancini, Cultural Development Program, 1% for the art update.
Mayor, Paul has all of his staff here, so if you would like to do his report first, I'm fine waiting.
Yeah, sure.
Is that okay?
That's why I defer to
okay?
city manager.
Okay.
Go for, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking of our residents who are here that don't get paid, but that's okay. Yeah, that's fine.
Well, thank you, Mayor. I do have my staff here. Some did have to go because I didn't buy them dinner tonight because I told them we'll be done by 7, and yet, we went a little longer. I'll be quick.
How often are we buying dinner?
Not recently, so.
Which column is that? That column.
So tonight I have the first quarter financial report to present to the City Council. This covers July through September. But before I go into the various detail of the numbers, I have a certificate of achievement for excellence in financial reporting from our GFOA, Government Finance Officers Association. This is a plaque that they provide us, the city, regards to our ACFR, which is our annual financial report that we generate annually. And I wanted to recognize my staff that is always kind of in the background when they work on this ACFR, which is here. It's another document that we generate besides the big budget. This is the other item. This is really the item that takes quite a bit of time after the budget gets adopted. My staff is working with auditors, packaging this together, and then we send this to the GFOA for them to review. And this is really just our report card to see how our finances are. How do we do on the budget? How do we spend the funds that we were gonna plan to spend? So I felt that this has quite a bit of weight, but yet at the time, I wanted to recognize my staff, and I believe there some are still here. I have Vicky in the back, our finance manager. I have Dino, our treasury and customer services manager. We also have Eva, our accounting manager or supervisor. Also have Heather, who's new, but she's also an El Segundo resident. And so I wanted to recognize her. We also have Omar. You might recognize him, his son mostly. Cole, our running back for our El Segundo High School, unfortunately. Yeah, he did have an unfortunate accident or injury. So, but his son, and he also, of course, is a resident as well. And then Liz, I think her daughter might still be here. Maybe she felt. So she goes to Richmond School
way
as
to
well.
make me feel bad. I was gonna let 1% for the arts. I'm so sorry. I didn't know there were any kids still up for this thing.
That was
I'm so
my little
sorry. Sorry,
urgency
Liz.
to just get through to at least recognize her daughter that's here. And she attends Richmond High School, so she wanted to stick around and see council meeting. Oh, thank you. Thank you for my team. There she is, Ramona. All right. Well, with that said, let me just jump into the numbers, and I'll be brief, as the first quarter is really just a really quiet quarter. As I mentioned, the months of July and through September, we're basically closing the fiscal year. And so revenue-wise, it's a small pot of revenue that comes in, which I'll go into a little bit of detail. And then our expenses too as well, just to track where we are at expenses 3 months into the fiscal year. And then I'll just give you a quick update on our reserves and our fund balance. Regards to our revenues, we collected for the 3 months 9.5 million. That's 10% of our budget versus prior quarter of $7.9 million, or 9% of that budget that year ago. And really, if you do the math, it's 20% increase, but I wanted to make sure that it's not a 20% increase in revenues. I'll go into the details as to why we saw a 20%, but it really comes down to timing of our interest income, which I'll go into the next slide. Our big 5 revenues are on pace to hit the budget, so no red flags there. And I'll continue providing the council on the second and third quarters where you'll see more of the significant revenues coming in the coming months. I'll come back to council to give you an update there as well. On our revenues, just to highlight a few here, our sales tax going from left to right, we've collected $1.3 million. TOT is close to $1.5 million. And just highlighting the big ticket items here, utility users tax, a little over 1.5 million, close to 1.6 million. And then going way to the right here, interest and rental income, the big jump there. Just wanted to let the council know that majority of that is the interest income that our city treasurer takes our liquid cash to invest. The reason it's hitting 3 million really is a timing thing more than anything. It's that we collect 3 million, but what we do is at the fiscal quarter end, we distribute that interest to the various other funds. But timing wise, we didn't do that calculation yet. So you see a 3 million, but it's close to $1.6 million that went to the general fund. 1.4 million of it will be dispersed to the various other funds. In regards to this chart here, I wanted to kind of paint a picture for council, just focusing on the top 5 revenues. Working from our left to our right, sales tax. The blue is our current fiscal year. Orange is the prior fiscal year. As you can see, it's flat on the sales tax. And I wanted to let the council know that what we budgeted this year was $15.5 million in sales tax. But last year, when we ended the fiscal year, we collected 17 million. So being flat makes sense, and we were anticipating that as we will exceed that budget. And during mid-year in February, when I come back, we will revisit the sales tax revenue budget. Business license tax, as you can see, we see a little spike last year. And this is really a one-time payment that was made from 3 various businesses that was outstanding that came in during this period last year. So we saw a spike, but other than that, you will see the true picture during this next renewal process in December when we send the business license taxes out to the various businesses, and we'll see it flow in January. And I'll give a council an update regards to our business license tax since it's been 2 years by the time come January of next year. Give you an update of analysis of how we've been collecting, how it's been doing, how has the new measure impacted the city. So I'll give that update for you, council, in February. On the transient occupancy tax, this quarter we did see a quite higher number than we did prior year. And there's some data points here. Our occupancy rate is at 86.6% versus 83.3%. So we saw a 3% increase during this quarter. So that's a good sign. And also our average daily rate was at $167.97 versus $164.13. So daily rate is also higher. Hence, we're seeing more TOT, and it was forecasted during our budget when we adopted the budget. Regards to property tax, this quarter is a flat, so we don't see any activity on the property tax, and you'll see that mostly in the third quarter and the fourth quarter. Lastly, utility users tax. Overall, it's slightly lower than last year. As post-pandemic, we saw a big increase in rates, in utility users rates, so we saw that revenue increase. Well, we did see that it was going to peak in the coming years, so that we went ahead and adjusted that revenue for this year so that we knew that it was going to come in flat. So it was anticipated to the utility users tax to be flat this year compared to last year. I won't go into the various details as I touched on a various few of the high big ticket items on our revenues. But I do wanted to just slide down to line 13, the interest income that I mentioned earlier. If you slide way to the right, you see kind of a year-over-year comparison. It's showing a 236% increase. But as I mentioned, that really is just a timing thing that we need to reallocate 1.4 million of the $3 million to the various funds. So that will that has happened, but during this reporting period, It was just timing that we didn't reflect that. So overall, the revenues that we collected was 9.6 million. 10% of that was our budget. On all funds revenue, overall, we collected $31.6 million of all funds of the $165 million budget. So we collected 20% of our anticipated budget during this period. Moving on to expenditures, our general fund expenditure, we spended $23.7 million, or 24% of our budget, versus $24.9 million, or 25.8% of our budget prior year. And so it's in line with what was anticipated. Our department vacancies continues to be in the double digits, and we are focusing on that number as we go in towards mid-year. Our O&M costs are on pace with the budget expenditures. And as I mentioned, I will be coming back to council to give you continual updates on the various expenditures during our quarterly updates. Just to touch on various department expenses during this 3 months, police and fire is the highest expenses, as both of their budgets are the largest. And during this period, there are also some biannual payments that we make payments in July, so you do see a little spike in their expenditures. But overall, I didn't see anything that put a red flag regards to expenditures on any of the departments. Transfers out also is one of these items where we do it in July, so you do see a big spike, but you won't see that kind of transfers out moving forward into the various other quarters. Just a summary of general fund expenditures. Overall, as I mentioned, we spent $23.7 million of our $98 million budget, which equates to 24% of the budget. Just kind of going back up to the transfers out line item 3, if you look at how much we spent on the percentage of the budget, it's 37%, which right now you should be at around 25. And the reason for that is just because we do a lot of the transfers out during this first 3 months of the quarter versus throughout the year. And on the all funds expenditure side, total expenditures for the fund for these 3 months was $41.6 million versus our budget of $215 million. So a little shy of 20% of the budget was expended during this quarter. The last slide I have for you tonight is just a quick update on our reserves and our fund balance. Our general fund reserves per our policy is 25%, which equates to $23.1 million. Our general fund balance is just a snapshot of where we are at our fund balance level as of September 30th was $55 million. Our economic uncertainty reserve remains at $2 million, OPEB reserve at $33.4 million, pension trust reserves at $5.8 million, general fund CIP reserves $400,000, and lastly, the senior housing trust fund balance of $825,000. That concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Sir, one question. Years ago with D.R. Horton, we set aside several $1 million for affordable housing. I don't know where we're accounting for that, but with $3 to $5 million somewhere in there available still, earmarked for affordable housing. So
I would have to come back.
That predated you, but it'd be good to get a report on where we're at with that, and
I could do that.
Revisit that in the new year in terms of what are we going to. Maybe that's a strategic plan issue, but we have the funds. We couldn't really find anything that was suitable either through Planning Commission or Council in the past, but those funds are sitting there.
Okay, I'll definitely look into that.
And they must have grown. I would imagine they've been invested by the treasurer at this point. So
Absolutely. I'll give you an update on that. Yeah.
I have a question, Paul.
Yes.
So how is that new model working, the one that we...
The long-range forecast? Yeah. So the long-range forecast, since we presented to the council, I've been working with Liz, our management analyst, and I felt that the best time to bring it to you is probably in the mid-year, because then that gives you 6 months of data. Also, there's also various new MOUs that took effect, some come July 1st. So that would change the forecast, and I'll come back in mid-year. That'll be February when I give you an update on the long-range forecast.
Okay, and then the two other things. On TOT,
yes.
You know, with the World Cup and Olympics coming, and I know one of the things we were going to talk about bringing a committee together with residents to talk about how we're going to handle short-term rentals during that period. I just want to keep our eye on that TOT for that period, because I know that during those timeframes, people will be trying to, rent out their homes, and I just want to make sure that all those are properly registered and TOT is captured. And then the last one is on the work hub space. One of the questions in our finance committee came up about, places like WeWorks or, any shared workspace. What is the, how are we ensuring that all those businesses actually have a business license?
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, we've been a little bit short-staffed lately, so we haven't been able to audit places like WeWorks. But we will probably come April or May, after we do renewals, start reaching out to them now that we have a new revenue inspector, and she can go out there and try and get lists of businesses from them.
Well, and I also think it's important that we, I'm sure WeWorks pays their business license,
They
that they
do,
have
yes.
a clear understanding that they need to have all those companies that are part of their program have a business license. Like it should be, maybe we attach a fine or something that if they don't have some, because we need to have them help us
Right.
ensuring that these companies get their business license.
And we'll probably have to just review our municipal code to see how much leverage we have over requiring them to give that information.
So can we make sure that comes back?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the mechanism is for that, but that has to be something that other cities broach. I mean, there is no doubt that we have businesses in town who have employees living in Idaho who do not have a business entity in Idaho, but are realizing all of their income here, but not paying for headcount. Like, I don't know how that is. This is outside my area of expertise, but there has to be a way to reconcile that.
Yeah, what we can do is we can reach out to other agencies too and see, and maybe research how they're capturing that and auditing these businesses that are not here physically, but how are they paying their business license tax, and how are we really recouping and auditing them?
Yeah, I would presume at some point in our history we have to have looked at this before, and there has to be a myriad, tens of thousands of cities I'm sure have exercised this, especially if they're a relative low tax, no tax city like we are to the neighbors. It just has to be out there.
And when we come back, I'll have that research as well.
I just think it's important that, that we don't, if we're looking for additional revenue, that we're going after people that are bad actors rather than hitting up the people that are consistently always paying. So I'd rather take care of the bad actors and make sure that they're paying their fair share.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you very much.
Great.
Appreciate
Thank you.
it.
Thank
Look
you,
forward to
guys.
the next report. Congrats again on the award, the GFA award. All right, last but not least, item 12, Cultural Development Program, 1% for the art. Mrs. Mancini.
Yes. Hello? Okay. Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council. As you are all aware, the City of El Segundo established an art in public places fee through the City Council's adoption of Ordinance 1594 on November 19, 2019. The parameters for the city's Art in Public Places program, or Cultural Development Program, are set forth in El Segundo Municipal Code and the adopted administrative guidelines for the program. The city's cultural development program fee only applies to commercial or industrial development projects with a construction cost of $2 million or more. Residential development projects are exempt from the program. For a development subject to the city's fee, the developer has the option to install artwork on site equal to 1% of the project's construction cost or contribute the equivalent to the program's cultural development fund. The city can program funds from the Cultural Development Fund only for the following: for the design, acquisition, commission, installation, improvement, relocation, maintenance, conservation, restoration, utility charges, and insurance of artwork, to sponsor or support artistic or cultural services, or for the city's costs of administering the Cultural Development Fund and associated programs. Since its inception, the Cultural Development Program has generated over $1.8 million in funds for public art and public art programs. In addition, the program has generated a financial valuation of over $800,000 in 8 completed public art pieces. The program has also launched several initiatives such as the Visual Artists in Community, the Poet Laureate Program, the Cultural Excursions for Senior Residents, the Festival of Holidays, the Art Walk, and the Community Engagement Fund, a small grant program supporting events like the El Segundo Juneteenth Festival and Gundo Pride. Additionally, the program has contributed to capital improvement projects by funding artistic enhancements for the Gateway Project, the Plunge renovation, and the Teen Center. This program has enhanced the city's character by integrating art into public spaces, structures, and experiences. It promotes accessibility to the arts, supports local tourism, drives revenue for local businesses, contributes to cultural equity and inclusion, and creates opportunities for artists and arts organizations, thereby strengthening the city's creative economy. The program operates as a division within the Recreation, Parks, and Library Department and is managed by one staff member, the Cultural Arts Coordinator, who reports directly to the Director of Recreation, Parks, and Library. An Arts and Culture Advisory Committee, appointed by Council and comprised of up to 11 community representatives, provides guidance for program policy, approves developers' public art proposals, and recommends annual budget allocations for council approval. The Cultural Arts Coordinator oversees this process, working closely with developers to ensure compliance. Staff do not apply personal judgment to the eligibility or standards of artwork, adhering instead to ordinance-defined criteria. The Arts and Culture Committee reviews on-site art proposals with no rejections to date and has requested revisions from one application due to the inclusion of logos and branding. The program's purpose is to enrich the community through culturally valuable art, not to serve as a marketing tool for businesses in alignment with municipal code requirements. In 2024, the Cultural Arts Coordinator initiated a comprehensive program review and began developing a cultural arts master plan expected to be completed by Q1 of 2025. The master plan will refine program guidelines and processes, strengthen partnerships with developers, expand the city's public art collection, implement programming that aligns with ordinance objectives and city priorities, foster collaborations with local cultural organizations, and identify new opportunities for economic impact. That concludes my report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have. I also have Cultural Arts Coordinator Randy Neeson with us this evening. If there are any additional questions that I can't answer.
In the report, I didn't see the maximum. When we passed the percent for arts, there was a maximum that we put in that could be assessed. So 1% at 2 million, but with a maximum number, a maximum expenditure.
Do you know the maximum expenditure?
I don't see that in the report.
Maybe Joaquin can answer this question better, but I think when we were looking at the presentation from 5 years ago, that wasn't actually included in the ordinance. And I haven't
Because it
seen
was
any,
definitely included in the debate.
I do remember watching that it wasn't
And we
included
just
in the
left
debate.
that out?
I'm having read the 2019 approval staff report. It refers to, my understanding is 2018, there was a request, the HCC developed this, came to council in July of 2019. That iteration had a cap and it had a different threshold other than the 2 million. I don't know what that number was, but between July and the time that it got approved in November of 2019, the cap was removed and the threshold was set as 2 million. So it was,
That cap was removed by who? That one didn't come to council with a cap removed.
my understanding in 2019 in July, the direction was to remove the cap, and when it came back
I think
in November.
Mr. Allen wants to weigh in on this
I'm
one.
sorry to interject, Joaquin, and Mayor Pro Tem, members of council, good evening. Allie and I, and Barbara actually, and Randy were having a little bit of this conversation earlier today, where we brought up the video from that meeting, just to dive into some of these weeds. And that specific item, the cap, lasted 2 discussions. It came back during the second reading as well by then Councilmember Nickel as well had brought it up. At the time, it was decided by the council to defer any cap, but there was a comment made by yourself, Mayor Pro Tem, that if there was a preponderance of projects that hit the $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 fee mark, then we bring this back to council. There wasn't a definition of what that preponderance was, but the sentiment at the time was, if there's a lot of projects that are starting to trigger that $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 mark fee, then we bring it back to council for consideration.
And have there been?
Off the top of my head, that breakdown that you
Yes.
gave Randy,
No,
I think there were 5 or 6
So
in this
there's
last
only
year.
been 2, I believe, that are over $500,000. So one was 2 years ago with the Chargers. That was almost $700,000. And then we have one development permit in the queue right now, which is Beach City Media's campus. I don't have a clear timeline on that, but it's around $700,000 for that one too.
Thank you.
Maybe they resolved it, but I know of one company in town that had a major one that was almost $1 million. Maybe they decided they want the public art. It was a huge project in town.
Do you know what it was?
I thought it was either L'Oreal, it was 888 Douglas somewhere potentially.
It was how much?
Like 800,000 or something initially.
There's Beach City's media campus is
This
close
was prior.
to.
I know they were very unhappy. I thought it was your former employer. They were very unhappy about the fee that they were.
It might have been Hackman or Patrick.
Yeah.
Could have been.
Not the, sorry, just the, for reference
Right.
purposes.
Okay. Any other comments or questions?
I'm just curious on the business plan waiting till next year, because I know we talked about that a while ago, where we were going to ask for money to have someone do that, and we're like, wait, we got a guy. We're paying for this guy to do this. So,
Right.
like,
This quarter of the, so it should be ready. When are you thinking, Randy, that you're going to bring it back to council?
Hoping to have a draft for review in January, and then we would have edits going through. Just, recognizing that I do have responsibilities in my core job, so to develop an entire plan has been a big undertaking. So it is in development. We are hoping to get some community input in the next month as well. But I've also been doing a lot of investigating of the program, because when I came in here, there was not a lot of documentation of what has been done in the past, so it was a pretty big undertaking to just get an understanding of what exactly I was building from. So
I have a question about, one of the things, I know that as far as the building the plan, I want to, we've had close to $1 million or $1.2 million, right? Where you said that's been spent. How much has been spent?
Oh, since the beginning,
Yeah.
1.8 million.
1.8. And we don't have any real long-lasting art, like bigger, and I'm really big on functional art.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my request, to please bring some functional art. And I do have some issues with the grant program that come to my attention, that we've given 2 grants to 2 nonprofits where both nonprofits have their organizers sitting on our ACC committee.
Mhm.
So I find that very unethical, that they awarded themselves money, or had the committee award their nonprofits money. And I just want to make sure, and one of my issues is that we have not announced to the general public that grant money is available. So if we're going to start awarding and allowing the committee to award grants to nonprofits to run events, that information needs to be communicated out to the public and be very transparent, and not be just done within the ACC themselves. So I want to ensure that this council knows that that's happening, and we need to either establish a policy or stop it from happening, or design something that there's much more transparency, and that there's no ethical challenge to some of the practices.
Yeah, and that's that will be part of the cultural development master plan that Randy's working on. So to that end too, we're actually meeting with a consultant on Friday, the ACC board, to get their input on the master plan. He's already conducted or written a community survey that he's run through the city manager's office, so we can get community feedback. So we're on our way to getting that done.
Well, and it's frustrating because we've never, as a city, issued cash. I mean, there's a lot of times when we waive fees, it has to come to the council, just like when the AYSO wanted to have the parade, it came to the council made a decision, and that was just to waive fees. But here we have a committee issuing cash, which we have not approved, and the council has not approved, and there's no set policy on that. And so I just really would like to stop it until either a policy is established or it goes to the council, because it really is not ethical for it to be happening from that group.
Yeah, we can bring back the established policy that the ACC put together for your approval. We did have a council member on our committee.
That's different.
Right.
It's different.
Understand.
It sounds like what might be most productive is that if we get a report on how the program's been run up to date, what your blueprint is for changes and modifications, get some input from council, and then we can give you some guidance to go out and say, okay, we want more permanent art, we want more of this, we want less, whatever that is. But first you gotta tell us what you guys have been up to, where the money's going, how it's been spent, what works, what doesn't work, and then we can give you some guidance on how we want this business plan to be modeled. I'd hate for you to put a bunch of work in a business plan, present it to us, and then us have a left turn here, right turn there. It sounds like there's a lot more involved in this. That might be useful to have more communication with the council.
You know, I'm not a fan of this program. I haven't been
Yes.
from day one, public record. No offense, it's just, I don't think
No
the
offense.
government should be weighing in on public art. And I was thankful that when this passed, at least we had in a carve-out such that an owner, developer can go through this process to get their own public art. However, the process is pretty laborious, and we already have several factors weighing against the city when we're trying to court business. What's the number one question we get asked by new early stage startups? Are there any incentives to move in town? No, actually, they're disincentives. And this is dialogue that I'm having all the time with companies as we look to attract them here, is there are actually disincentives in town if you have to build something yourself. And so I have concerns about the program. I have concerns because art is in the eye of the beholder, and some person might like some art and some person doesn't like a cultural program and this event and this concert. I just don't think the government should be doing this. I think that we should be encouraging public art and encouraging private enterprise and nonprofits to do it. It's not our job to do it up here on the dais. That's my opinion. It remains the case. And when I would love to see what we've done and evaluate what the residents think about how we've spent the money. I think that would be really useful to do. But I can tell you it's incredibly difficult to do business in the state as someone who has a lot of employees in the state and talks to business owners every single day. Everything is already stacked against you. The wage and hour laws, the regulatory environment, the cost of living, the taxes, it goes on and on. The California building code, and then we just added a whole nother layer of complexity. So if you're building a sizable project in here like Hackman did, you're gonna come out of pocket at $800,000. That is not insignificant. That is a lot of money to try and capitalize over your project. And so I feel the same way I felt long ago. I don't think this is a good use of our time up here. We spent a lot of time on it as a body. We have a staff member that's paid, no offense, that's paid, and you're highly qualified. It's nothing against you, but paid by the Arts and Culture Fund. And I just don't think it's a good use of money. So my position stands. It doesn't look like I have company up here on the dais with this opinion, though. But I wanted to make sure that we at least have this dialogue in public again.
Do we want to discuss, or can we discuss at this time, the percentage, right? Do we want to reevaluate adding a cap, putting some constraints around there?
Well, I think there's consensus to take a look at it again, but I think it'd be a more productive conversation if they actually reported back with some numbers and some history of
What they've spent the money on?
Yeah, and then we can get understanding of what works, what doesn't work.
Specific.
And have a conversation where we can
Yep.
give some valuable input.
We can do that.
If we're going to do that, we need to include economic development and planning in that dialogue, because this is a factor. When you're looking at where to locate your business or where to develop, you're weighing all factors, and this is another factor. Not every city in LA County does this. And some cities are offering incentives to court people here to their cities. We are not offering anything. We're relying on the fact that we have the best intellectual capital. We're gifted with this logistics. We have this great residential community and school district, and we're close to the beach. And everything else, a lot of other things are stacked against us, and this is another one. So if we're going to do that analysis, let's make sure we understand the true effect on whether or not we're getting businesses and development in town.
And I'd also recommend, in alignment to that, that if there is a construction proposal on the table that is over the 500,000 threshold, that there's a conversation, that it triggers a conversation immediately and not wait. Because I think there needs to be, and I think that's what you were alluding to, Chris, was that we need, you know, let's not just assume status quo. And if this comes up, we should be notified so that we can make a decision to waive or to put a cap on it.
I think this is an important enough issue in an economically dynamic time for our city that we should report back on this very, very quickly, because if we're going to make changes, we owe it to people who are thinking about developing here to have a clear and cogent answer for them that, hey, here's what it costs and here's what the cap is, here's what your out-of-pocket is, because there's people making important decisions right now about whether or not to work in this city. So I know it sounds like it's not, you know, it's an also job. Hey, also do this, but I think we need something pretty quickly on this, because if we're going to make a big decision, it takes a long time for the whole process and the meeting and the first reading and the second reading and all the readings and all the emails and the public comments.
Would it be okay to bring this back in February? The only reason I say that is we have one meeting in December.
And January, right?
And then one meeting in January, and they're both jam-packed right now.
What's jam-packed? I remember we were like meet till midnight. What's jam-packed? Lately, we've been getting out in 2 hours.
Yeah, you're looking at 2 to 3 hours each meeting.
Okay.
I mean, we can, sure, we'll do.
I mean, to me, I agree with the Mayor Pro Tem. We have companies that we just found out leaving the city going to our neighbors because we can't accommodate them. Had nothing to do with 1% for the arts, but this is another factor we should consider. Bless you.
So you're interested in us bringing back more on the financial analysis, that side of things?
Yeah, as well as how are we doing against the other, like we just we just were a finalist in most business friendly city for the third time in the last 8 years. We didn't win this time, but how business friendly are you when you have a 1% tax for the arts?
We can do
as
that.
an example.
So here, February is not going to work.
I think January would be great.
So we'll schedule for the January meeting.
Great.
Thank you very much. That's outstanding. Appreciate it. All right, we're done with the regular business. Report, City Clerk.
No, thank you.
City Treasurer, not here this evening. Councilmember Baldino.
Yeah, real quick, I went to the Aquatic Center and looked at the Beach Cities tournament. It was a swim meet with 800 swimmers, children signed up. Met Joe there, looked at the parking, logistics, about how that type of event could be run. And so I just wanted to let you know that's something Aquatic Center is looking at, just logistically, how much money does it cost to rent? Because the event was successful in that they had the little parking lot in the front, and then the entirety of Weisburn's parking lot, and then they let the city let you park on the street. So there was ample parking. That place is deserted on the weekends. There's no one else around there. And so trying to solve parking will help us better program that facility. And so that's the challenge we're working on right now with Aquatics. But the event itself was very successful. And my thanks to the Aquatic staff for putting that all together. I know it was a long 2 days, but they had streaming up there like you would see at the qualifiers, where they had the film and the name of the kids swimming and the time and all that. I mean, these aquatic parents are no joke when it comes to their swim meets. So great event. Thanks for inviting me.
I'll pass that on to Joe. He was really excited about it and, really capitalized on the council's desire for us to start trying to bring some of those events.
He couldn't wait to show me around. And
he was so excited.
It's a pool.
So thank you for the compliments.
Yeah.
Was it? Can you confirm or deny that there was some kind of parent altercation?
There was.
I had the ability to meet some Elsingo's finest out there, where apparently parents are competitive in any sport.
Correct.
And our police officers were very professional. They let everyone calm down and shake hands and had to rest. The rest of the day was very nice and uneventful. But it is nice rolling up to an event and you see 4 of Elsingo police cars there and they're like, it's fine. Just parents have a disagreement. It's fine. Everyone's happy now. Like, thanks, guys.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. Thanks for sharing that. All right. Councilmember Drew, not here. Councilmember Perstuck.
Yeah, just want to mention that we had the Rec and Park Subcommittee meeting this last week. We're finalizing the teen center design and the skate park. And so those meetings happen pretty regularly. So if anyone wants to participate, and we will be also bringing to part of that committee the the land, the Hilltop area as well. So if there's any input, please attend those meetings. Those are very informative, and decisions are made. And I'm just excited that the plunge is getting done, and the Rec Park Phase 1 will be done soon. Well, soon, 2 years. We made a laugh at the subcommittee because staff did an outreach at the middle school, and the joke is those kids will be graduating high school by the time it's done. But for the skate park. But I'm just happy that it's moving forward, and thank you. And I hope you guys encourage you all to continue to push the Parks and Recs forward, and please at some point put the Civic Center Plaza area on your radar. Thank you.
And Carol, if I could just jump in on that note, we are presenting to the Rec and Park Commission tomorrow evening, November 20th at 6 p.m. here in the council chamber, the Teen Center and Skate Park. So if the community would like to come out, we would love to have them.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, Mayor Pro Tem Pimentel.
Mr. Mayor, this week we have sanitation, we have the COG meeting, and South Bay Aerospace all packed in at the end of the week. So none of those have met yet this month, so we'll report that out at the next meeting. Last week attended CoMotion, which is the big regional transportation sort of innovation meeting. Metro gave a dizzying number of briefs, none of which made me feel confident that they'd ever driven on a freeway or commuted anywhere. So that part was incredibly dismaying. But that being said, there were some interesting and noteworthy innovations. People were very excited to talk to us. Some of the micro-mobility providers, I know Bird had obviously had a very somewhat of a false start with us a few years ago, but some of the micro-mobility providers who have different sort of modalities, things with 3 wheels, things that lend themselves to seniors, several of them came up and wanted to talk to us about, hey, why did El Segundo kick out Bird? And I explained that we didn't. You know, we set some ground rules for participation in micromobility that they were not able or interested in complying with around indemnification and ADA and things like that. And it sounds like there might be some interest in looking at some transport options from them. So I'll forward some of those contacts over to the city staff. They just wanted more. They really were asking more questions about, well, what in specific did you ask of Bird? And I don't say this to beat up on Bird. They were just the ones front and center with us periodically. Also, some interesting evolutions of traffic control measures, sort of smart street type things that I thought were interesting. Then the following day went down to the Southern California Innovation Alliance meeting in Long Beach. We presented alongside Long Beach and sort of presented kind of the continuum of growth, how companies sort of start here and then grow into Long Beach. And that was very interesting to just see how different cities are doing it. Particularly, you know, our frenemy Glendale, who's also in the running for most business friendly every other year, their economic development director, their former one who's now in Ontario, gave sort of dueling presentations about kind of how she did it in Glendale versus what she does in Ontario and the differences between the two and the two different growth models, which I thought was really, really interesting to see how a city capitalizes on what it does well and what it does differently. Also what you do when you just have a ton of free space. I mean, when you're in Ontario, it's like it's like a Monopoly game out there. They just build something over there. Other than that, yeah, the stuff, South Bay Aerospace on Thursday, sanitation, we'll talk about, and I'll report back on the lawsuit that the county lost that will hit us on the east side. And City Attorney, are you going to be doing a report on any of the legislation once they finish the tally counts? I know they're not totally done, but some of these things are incredibly close. Will we get that at the next meeting, sort of report on what this means to us, the Measure A's and the bond measures?
For the first meeting in December.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to start by reading a commendation. I don't see Mr. Allen here, but
Wait. You are not scheduled for the first meeting of December because it's now pushed to January 21st because Mark mentioned that the COG wouldn't have the information you needed to put that together. Because the staff report was due Monday.
Got it. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
So not March 3rd, but not December 3rd, I mean?
Not December 3rd, but it should be here on the January 21st meeting.
wait, is that all county election results?
I mean, right now, they're
Certified
still at like
results?
94% tabulated. They still don't, they have 6% of the votes, they still haven't counted.
Okay, just so we're all clear.
Separately, certification will occur on the 17th, and
The county.
for us. Do we not have a meeting on the 17th?
We do have a meeting
Okay.
on the 17th, and on the 17th is when we'll certify and give the oath, but the county, will certify on or around November 28th. LA Board of County Supervisors will declare the election over on December 3rd.
Because things like Measure A, jamming our sales tax, certainly has a role in people's appetite to do business here if we're going to be talking about those things in January, February.
Yes.
All right, thanks for clarifying that, Madam Clerk. So, Mr. Allen, I don't think he's here, but met with Varda Space. Oh, hey, Varda Space Industries, I think you probably already saw that, but Mayor Drew and Barbara, our propulsion test facility has passed all final fire and building code inspections and effective today is officially approved for operations, exclamation point. We'd like to express our sincere gratitude to you and the City of El Segundo team for supporting, but in particular, you, Mr. Allen, Art Ramirez, Albert Miranda, Justin Montgomery, J.C. Reynes, Robert Diaz, Tony Perez, and Jenna Sirku for their consistently expedient support and responses, et cetera, really commendation, which is great because he said this when I was at lunch with him and 8 other companies that are in the same space. And how do you even approve a propulsion test facility? Because I've been telling that story, like this is an example of how good our planning department is, that we're approving things like microreactor fabrication, not the real thing, but prototyping, and propulsion test facilities. That doesn't happen every day, so pretty amazing. Just kudos to you guys. Also, Eddie Awards were finalists. I mentioned that. Bummer, it was a great event. Councilmember Perstuck and I were there. We were one of the 3 finalists. Arbor Energy got some great press. This is another El Segundo company working on waste to energy, biomass in a new efficient manner. They raised a lot of money. It was an event last week. They were featured on Time Magazine, on the cover of Time Magazine, El Segundo Business, as well as in Forbes recently. And they're doing amazing things. Another proud El Segundo company. Congrats to CIF football, CIF water polo, both not making it all the way, but qualifying. For football is the first time in I think like 8 years or something like that. And then finally, I know you're going to touch on this. I just want to say I was in Diamond Bar this morning for the AQMD hearing. Thank you to Daniel for providing that public testimony before I actually arrived. And the good news is that they've agreed to extend the order. It was interesting because I know Councilor Baldino was paying close attention to this as well. The council for AQMD, the district, was actually suggesting that they do not have the grounds to extend the order of abatement, and the board of directors disagreed with them and unanimously supported us in extending the order of abatement through till August 3rd. However, they did not accommodate any of the other conditions that we requested. And one thing I'd like you to clarify in writing, please, if my colleagues agree, is this issue of the doors keep coming up. And the inspector is basically lying, like the doors are closed. We saw firsthand, we were there, the doors remain open because they have to move the truck. They don't have any way to spread the waste, so they move the truck, keeping the door open within that bay. Can we clarify that in writing to the entire board so they know exactly what the facts are, because they're being misrepresented? I would appreciate that. That's
we had mentioned about maybe talking to OSHA because of the cleanliness of that facility. Maybe that could be part of, I'm not sure what their jurisdiction is, but I mean, that could be another avenue we could go down.
Thank you, Councilmember. That's all I had. And City Attorney.
Nothing at this time. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, Mr. George.
Yes, Mayor, regarding that hearing board meeting this morning, thank you for attending, and anyone else that was on the Zoom, and also Daniel for attending and speaking. Yeah, it was touch and go there for a while at the end. So glad that they did extend the abatement order till August 5th. Of 2025. A lot to do between now and then, I can tell. Also, regarding AQMD, over the past 2 weeks, they've received approximately 46 odor complaints. So the odor complaints are still coming in. And I know one of the board members brought up, well, wait a minute, we're still getting these odor complaints, and why would we not continue this abatement order? Because the odors are still coming in. So, and even this morning we were down at the site, and you could smell it. We also have finalized the amendment to Dr. Stenstrom's contract, and with Philip Fries, who will be assisting Dr. Stenstrom now in actually visiting the site on a regular basis. He'll do a complete assessment, report to us, and then follow up with regular visits to the site. In fact, tomorrow, we have a working lunch with Barbara Romero and a handful of her staff here at City Hall. Elias and I and Dr. Stenstrom and Philip will be meeting. It's kind of a kickoff meeting to set some parameters for that sharing of information. And we're still trying to get Inspector Haynes from AQMD to participate. It's been very difficult, but we're still trying to at least get our new person to at least have an opportunity to converse with Inspector Haynes on his experiences and history of the plant, because he knows it inside and out. And then finally, on November 12th, between 4 a.m. and 10 a.m., Hyperion did perform a regular maintenance of the plant's power distribution equipment, and that maintenance was to ensure the reliability of the plant's electrical infrastructure. As usual, we do post all of that information on our website, and to keep the community informed. And Hyperion's getting a little better in terms of giving us a heads up when they do undertake these maintenance work orders. So that is it regarding Hyperion at this point. Thank you.
We're adjourned. Thank you very much.
That was exhausting. Jesus.